Mingming transmigrated into the body of the villainous younger martial sister in a cultivation novel. To survive, she must follow the original plot and capture the hearts of the righteous and honorable eldest senior brother, Guang Fingjiue, and the aloof younger senior brother. The system's assigned task is surprisingly this. As an elder of the Xuanshu sword sect and a direct disciple of Tian Xianzi, you are defeated by Pei Ji, an outer disciple of mediocre talent. You believe he used underhanded tricks. Go to Pei Ji's room and insult him according to the original text. You must complete the main storyline without deviating from the original plot. All character actions must be logical. Absolutely no OOC behavior is allowed. Thus, she arrived at the residence of the male protagonist, Pei Ji. Just as Mingming was about to push the door open, she heard arguing inside. Hurry up and tell us what dirty tricks you used. You're nothing but trash. How could you improve so much overnight? Let's search his clothes. We're bound to find something shady. You little punk, you dare hit me? I'll kill you. The voices gradually faded, and she couldn't hear clearly anymore, only vaguely discerning sounds resembling punches and kicks. Seeing that there was no more commotion inside, Mingming worried that the male lead had been beaten half to death. Without time to think too much, she immediately channeled her energy into her palm and gently pushed open the wooden door. A young man with black hair and black clothes stood poised, his sword pointed directly at another person's throat. As she entered, Mingming happened to hear the chilling end of his sentence. I wouldn't mind killing you. After speaking, he turned his head, his dark eyes filled with intense anger and barely concealed killing intent. The person with the sword at his throat was leaning against the corner, clearly having just been beaten. His right cheek was badly swollen. Mingming feigned composure, raising an eyebrow with a smile. Why stop? Continue. Ningning had joined the sect the same year as them, and was also Tian Xianzi's prized disciple. So she was immediately recognized that your elder Tian Xian's. The sword-wielding Shun Anqiao's face darkened, his brows furrowing and jealousy flashing in his eyes. What are you doing here? Ningning, most familiar with his behavior, pointed at the man on the ground that I came to see him. He's been beaten pretty badly. You know why I'm here. We belong to the same Xuanshu sect, yet you commit such despicable acts. If not for the fact that we are fellow disciples, I would kill you, you treacherous scoundrel, today. Confess. What tricks did you use in today's sect competition? Mingming recited her lines in one breath. After finishing, she let out a cold snort, perfectly in character, lifting her chin slightly and leaning towards the black-clad Shun Anqiao beside her. Your turn. Before the black-clad youth could open his mouth, the male lead lying in the corner let out a heart-wrenching wail. It's all my fault. Spare me. Mingming slowly formed a question mark in her mind. Wait, what are you doing, male lead? Wasn't it written in the book that even if you were burned by hellfire for 3 days and 3 nights, you would never beg for mercy? Why are you acting like this after just a few scoldings? Mingming was taken aback by his reaction, then heard him continue to whimper. I'll confess everything. Please don't tell the elders. I stole Pei Ji's sword, which is why he had to use a broken iron sword in the sect competition. It's all my fault. Spare me. He stole Pei Ji's sword? This person isn't Pei Ji. Ningning finally understood the feeling of having 10,000 alpacas galloping through her mind. She was so shocked she almost suffocated. If this beaten man wasn't the male lead, maintaining an awkward yet polite smile, she turned her head to take a closer look at the sword-wielding youth in black. She saw a pair of beautiful, upturned phoenix eyes. The dark pupils were filled with a cold, deep malice, like a bottomless abyss. Beneath the corner of his right eye was a crimson teardrop mole, mentioned countless times in the novel as belonging to the male protagonist, Pei Ji. Only then did Mingming realize she had mistaken the person. Pointing at the man on the ground, she scolded, We belong to the same Xuanshu sect, yet you commit such a treacherous act against a fellow disciple. Framing Pei Ji is truly unforgivable, despicable. Pei Ji remained expressionless. What's with his expression? Niaji pondered. I've long heard that this young miss has a haughty and domineering personality, but now she's condescending to speak up for Pei Ji. Could it be that she knew of Pei Ji's true strength all along and has secretly fallen for him? He thought for a moment, then lowered his voice with an ingratiating smile. Excuse me, may I take my leave? The two of you are a match made in heaven, truly enviable. I'm afraid I'll disturb your budding romance if I stay any longer. Ningning and Pei Ji said in unison. Shut up. Ni sie was instantly terrified. Ningning and the male lead exchanged glances, wondering if they needed to explain anything. I didn't come here specifically to help you. My humiliation today is due to my defeat, but that's only because I used less than half my strength. I'll beat you sooner or later. Just you wait and see. After saying this, he stormed off. You also immediately made an excuse and tried to escape. Pei Ji's gaze was cold, like a glacial wind. His expression was indifferent, with a hint of ridicule and mockery. The teardrop mole was like congealed blood, sending a chill down Nieji's spine. Transmigrating into a cultivation novel as the villainous younger martial sister, the system forced her to pursue the Dragon Palace's young prince. Having missed her mealtime, Ningning took a skinned goose from the cupboard and placed it in the cauldron. She then used her spiritual energy to heat the cauldron. While waiting for the meat to cook, she mused that she was the 7th person to get goose meat from the kitchen. So, following that logic, she was definitely Chong E7. With a bang, the cauldron, unable to bear the shame, sacrificed itself. To defend its dignity as a cauldron, it exploded gloriously. It's just roasting a goose. Is it really necessary? The hunger pangs gnawed at her nerves. Ningning, unable to care about much else, held her breath and stepped forward. The cauldron was now a mess of broken pieces, black smoke and fumes swirling around. Her roast goose lay quietly on the ground. This smoky scene hadn't yet cleared when Ningning picked up the goose. Amidst the lingering smoke, she suddenly heard a light-hearted knock on the door. Little senior sister. It was a youthful voice she had never heard before. Ding! A system task was issued. Outside the door was Ling Sun, Elder Tian Xianzi's newly accepted young disciple. As a senior sister, you have always been jealous of him stealing Master's favor. You want to take revenge, invite him in, and, according to the original plot, seduce him. Ningning's face was full of distress. In her current disheveled and soot-covered state, trying to seduce someone, she looked more like a ghost from a horror movie. The system's ding echoed in her ears. She remembered Ling's son, the young prince of the East Sea Dragon Palace, a highly anticipated genius. Because he grew up in the palace and rarely interacted with outsiders, he gradually developed a shy and introverted personality, blushing whenever he encountered a woman. Ling Sun was indeed startled. Little senior sister, are you all right? I'm Fina. Ningning gave him a reassuring smile, waving the blackened, unidentified object in her hand that I'm roasting a goose. Ling Sun was stunned again, looking at the object with a complicated expression. This thing, you could probably take this grave robbing, and even the zombies would think it was a donkey hoof. But that wasn't the most concerning point. The handsome young man frowned slightly, his gaze falling on the shattered remains of the cauldron. His voice unconsciously became a bit hoarse. Little senior sister, is this your cauldron? Ningning didn't understand his intense reaction. She touched her nose to oh, you know where I could buy a new one. The atmosphere fell into a strange silence. After a long while, the young disciple's clear voice rang out again, like a death knell from hell. But don't you still owe a lot of debt? Ningning's eyes widened in shock. Seeing her disbelief, Ling Sun lowered his head, avoiding her gaze. He continued softly, Master told me, you owe quite a bit of money for forging your sword. You haven't paid off the Heartmark sword yet. This cauldron was 10,000 spirit stones. The compensation for damaging the residence is 5,000 spirit stones. And then there's your sandalwood incense table ornament, and so on. Ningning was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information. These furnishings, aren't they the cheap, mass-produced ones from the sect? Ling Sun seemed a little afraid of her. But little senior sister said she liked sandalwood and that she needed the best for alchemy. What about my family? Isn't my family wealthy? Master forbids disciples from squandering their family fortune. Ningning was stunned, fighting back the urge to cough up blood. Finally, she asked, shouldn't the sect pay for cultivation expenses? Little senior sister, wake up. Ling Sun seemed anxious. We're sword cultivators. Those words struck a chord. Ningning was enlightened. Right, she was a sword cultivator. How do ordinary people view sword cultivators? Aloof, cold, deadly, capable of cleaving the sky with a single strike. We're sword cultivators really like. Stubborn, violent, and most importantly, poor. Out of all the sects, sword cultivators always have the best, most stylish swords and use the sharpest sword techniques. But his clothes were always the cheapest. The reason was none other than this. All his money was spent on his wife. Just as she was thinking this, a passage of text suddenly appeared in her mind. It was the formal system, helping her to smoothly complete the mission. It pulled up a cliched paragraph. She smiled delicately, her slender fingers brushing against Lin Yijing, causing the young man's back to stiffen and his ears to flush crimson. The moon's shadows danced, moistening the girl's soft lips. She opened her mouth slightly, her breath like orchids. The moon is beautiful tonight, and senior sister is in a good mood. Shall we go out and admire the moon in the courtyard? Little senior sister slowly approached him, her hand resting on his shoulder. Her tone was delirious, a mix of laughter and something akin to a choked sob. Her voice drifted like a mountain ghost, perfectly matching her slightly reddened eyes. The moon is beautiful tonight, and senior sister is in a good mood. Why don't we go out and admire the moon? The little dragon prince of the East Sea paled and took a step back, trembling all over. Little senior sister has gone mad from poverty, but little senior sister was so pitiful. She was already so impossibly poor. If he refused her invitation, she would definitely be even more heartbroken. So, the little white dragon endured his discomfort, his voice low and muffled. He trembled slightly, unable to control it. Little senior sister, don't be sad. I'll go look at the moon with you. The little dragon prince was truly a little angel. Even though he was so poor himself, he could still bring out his last remaining assets to give to his poverty-stricken little senior sister. Ningning hadn't expected Lin Sun to agree to watch the moon with her. After all, Lin Sun had only recently joined the sect, and their relationship was merely that of fellow disciples who had only met a few times. They hadn't even spoken to each other much. In the original story, the original host had been immediately brushed off when she touched his hand. Unlike now, not only did the little white dragon not show any disgust at her touch, he even accepted her invitation to admire the moon. But little senior sister, shouldn't we tidy up a bit before we go out to admire the moon? Ningning trailed off, her lowered lashes concealing her dark eyes. When she spoke again, her voice was soft and light, like a little dumpling. Let's tidy up your room properly. She spoke with her head down, which allowed her to unscrupulously study her little junior brother. The little white dragon was an important supporting character in the original story. Due to his kind nature, he had a good relationship with the solitary protagonist and naturally had more scenes, compared to Pei Ji's volatile, moody, and powerful aura. Lin Sun's character seemed much more refined and otherworldly. Ningning was lost in thought as Lin Sun finished clearing away the broken table legs, cracked skull, the completely blown-apart chair, and the books scattered across the floor from the explosion's impact. He was so skilled at cleaning up the debris that Ningning couldn't help but ask, "Do you often do this at home?" "I learned it after entering the mountains." Lin Sun smiled shyly. "Master told me this is an essential skill for cultivating." Ningning couldn't help but ask a soul-searching question. Why is it so hard for us to earn money, but so easy for others to earn our money? Little senior sister, who was diligently helping him move a bookcase, paused, then continued. "A friend of mine taught me some money-saving tips. Mind you, these are just my friend's methods. I haven't tried them myself." Sensing Ningning's gaze, the little white dragon panicked, his breathing becoming erratic. Basically, if a door talisman is damaged, you don't need to buy a new one. You just need to cut a piece of white cloth, draw cloud patterns on it with gold paint. And also, rainwater on rainy days shouldn't be wasted. You can collect it, boil it, and use it for bathing. It's cleaner than pond water. And after eating watermelon or pumpkin, you can save the rind and use it in your next meal to cleanse your intestines. That way, you have another dish. Ningning was stunned. Is this the #1 sword sect in the world? So while other sects were teaching calligraphy and swordsmanship, Xuanchu sect was teaching its disciples how to survive in poverty. Right, little senior sister? Lin Sun, seeing her even paler face, thought Ningning hadn't yet recovered from the blow of bankruptcy. He cautiously took a step closer to her and pulled a smooth, gleaming white pearl from his pocket. "I didn't bring much money with me when I left the EC. Only this night pearl is somewhat valuable. If you don't mind, take it and exchange it for some snacks." He's a real man. At worst, he can just drink dew and eat leaves. If little senior sister goes crazy, his whole life will be ruined. He's clearly feeling conflicted. She's a little angel. Even though she's poor as dirt, she's still willing to give him her last bit of savings. And oh no, I don't need it. Lin Sun quickly waved his hands. "Don't you have very few snacks yourself?" Unexpectedly, the landlord's silly son gave a chuckle, but it's okay. Last time, eldest senior sister took me to steal a bunch of melons from the Wanjian sect. We have enough melon rinds to eat for several. Before he could finish, Lin Sun abruptly stopped. He was proud and easily embarrassed. Before, he had deliberately hidden his identity, claiming that those things were done by a friend. Now, this sentence was basically a blatant announcement that that friend was him. Lin Sun stammered, unable to speak, feeling his head spin. In a daze, he suddenly heard Ningning's voice, her tone no different than before. We have enough melons to last for several days. How many melons did you and eldest senior sister steal? Didn't the Wanjian sect catch you? Could he have misheard? He had said melon rinds. He felt uneasy, but little senior sister's expression remained unchanged. It seemed she really hadn't heard clearly and hadn't connected him with that friend. Lin Sun forced a smile, the redness around his ears receding somewhat. Little senior sister, do you want to hear about us stealing melons? Ningning grinned. Tell me. And so the topic successfully shifted to eldest senior sister and the melon patch in the Wanjian sect. I heard eldest senior sister say stealing melons doesn't count as stealing. Can things from the despicable cultivators really be considered stealing? Ningning quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at the little white dragon's red-rimmed eyes and pale face, it was a good thing he reacted quickly and played dumb. Otherwise, he probably really would have cried. The next day, as soon as Ningning opened her eyes, she saw several large characters floating in her mind. The Great Sword Tournament is underway. You resent yesterday's defeat at the hands of Pei Ji and want to teach him a lesson. Please immediately proceed to the competition arena and attack Pei Ji from the shadows. This plot point had finally arrived. Ningning sat up groggily from the bed, running a hand through her messy hair. She remembered this was the starting point of Pei Ji's counterattack. Pei Ji would be severely injured and left barely alive. However, this perilous situation was also precisely his opportunity for a comeback. This time, she must strictly follow the original plot. She had to make sure Pei Ji was seriously injured and near death. Ningning had transmigrated into the vicious little junior sister in a cultivation novel. To complete the system's mission, she had to capture the heart of the noble and virtuous eldest senior brother. Thankfully, she had a flying sword. She quickly arrived at Kaiyang Peak, where the competition arena was located. The duel between Pei Ji and Chun Zhao was at a thrilling moment. The stage was a flurry of flashing swords and saber light. From an ordinary person's perspective, they could only see fleeting afterimages of the two figures on the stage. The forest of swords reflected bright white light under the sun. The clash of their swords sent sparks flying. Their weapons were like frost and snow meeting a sudden clap of thunder. The original novel stated that the disciple had already reached the golden core stage. After watching Pei Ji's match yesterday, he knew he couldn't underestimate him. In order to ensure victory, Chen Zhao used a hidden weapon against Pei Ji during the competition. And all she had to do was choose the right moment to secretly launch a sword attack at Pei Ji. A double attack from a hidden weapon and a sword. Pei Ji would have nowhere to dodge and would definitely be severely injured. At this moment, Pei Ji, dressed in black, appeared indifferent. As an unknown outer disciple, he was unexpectedly not at a disadvantage against Chen Zhao. It was becoming clear that Chen Zhao was starting to falter. Ningning knew it was time for her to act. She could see the movements of the two on stage with perfect clarity. Therefore, she also knew the exact moment to strike. Amidst the rising white mist, Ningning pinched a hand gesture and aimed it steadily behind Pei Ji. Like a flying flower, her sword attack was traceless and formless. The sword energy surged downwards. However, before Ningning could even form the "I can only help you this much" smile, the curve of her lips froze on her face. Oops, I'm not good at using hand gestures yet. It seems like my sword energy went off course. Pei Ji quickly sensed the sword energy approaching him. Unlike Chun Zhao's murderous heavy sword, this sword energy was light and agile, almost imperceptible. He was all too familiar with this feeling. It was the same as the female disciple he had faced yesterday. A low and rough male voice suddenly rang out in his mind, causing him to instinctively frown slightly. Damn it, someone's ambushing me. Ningning's sword energy was as swift as lightning, carrying an unstoppable, murderous intent. Pei Ji, busy dealing with Chun Zhao, could only dodge to the side. He hadn't expected that as soon as he revealed this brief opening, he would see Chun Zhao sneer. With a flick of his finger, a soul-piercing nail, small and difficult to detect, silently approached him, radiating a chilling coldness. Caught between a wolf and a tiger, and with Chun Zhao anticipating his movements, Pei Ji had nowhere to retreat. He had to land this blow today. Chun Zhao had already reached his limit. He roared furiously, "Damn you, vile woman! I'll teach you a lesson." Before his words faded, the trajectory of the Do Sheng and Fei Hua Ju techniques, surprisingly, wasn't straight. Instead, it veered slightly towards where Pei Ji now stood. It seemed the young woman hadn't been aiming for his previous position from the start, but rather for his current one. Pei Ji's attack came fiercely, his sword technique like a whirlwind, swift as lightning. In the blink of an eye, the two forces collided head-on. The impact was silent and invisible, yet a tempest raged beneath the surface, stirring up turbulent waves. Pei Ji felt a jolt of shock. How could that woman know the path of his soul-piercing nail? This perfectly measured force, this destined, seamless collision. It completely pulverized his hidden weapon. Could everything be under her control? He looked towards the stands with utter astonishment. He easily spotted the young woman in the purple dress and a lingering smile on her face. She was actually smiling. So, did she really do it on purpose? I understand. That fairy isn't just secretly helping you. She's also a supreme expert. Chun Zhao's expression hardened, the knuckles gripping his sword hilt turning white. In that case, don't blame me for showing no mercy. His great sword swept upwards, stirring a furious gale. The dark golden sword shadow intertwined with the sunlight. In a mere instant, the tall, burly young man lunged towards Pei Ji. The black-clad youth braced himself, a faint, dark aura flickering between his brows. A moment later, the sound of a massive sword crashing to the stage echoed. Chun Zhao finally lost consciousness and collapsed. Beside him, the black-clad youth gasped for breath, his thin chest rising and falling gently. The curve of a smile still lingered on his lips. Damn it, this scene is completely ruined. Forced by the system to use her charms to capture the heart of senior Brother Mengju, so that once he was smitten, the secret treasure would be easily within her grasp. Amidst the shimmering sword light, several gasps suddenly arose from the crowd. Knowing her moment had arrived, Ningning followed their gazes. Above the stage hovered two young men, Elder Tian Xianzi and Senior Brother Mengju. Ningning narrowed her eyes, watching the perpetually smiling young man wave at her. Although reluctant to admit it, this seemingly frivolous, playful swordsman was indeed her master. The ethereal figure beside him was her senior Brother Mengju. The books said Tian Xianzi was particularly fond of excitement. Having just returned to the sect, he'd heard the news of the original Ningning becoming the disciple of an outer sect disciple. He immediately came to the arena and witnessed Pei Ji struggling against Chun Zhao despite his injuries. Then, with a slap to his forehead and in perfect character, he declared, "This is a genius. He shall be my disciple." Thus, Pei Ji soared from outer disciple to become Elder Tian Xianzi's direct disciple. His life was completely transformed, no longer subject to bullying. "Not bad," the young man on the sword said, his naturally charming features and a slight curve of his lips creating a sense of spring breezes melting winter snow. His tone was as flippant as ever. "Want to be my disciple?" At this moment, he was so dazzling and elegant, like an immortal. His new disciple would surely be captivated by his divine and handsome appearance, and forever chant, "Master is the best." Unfortunately, just as he uttered, "Want to," Pei Ji, exhausted, collapsed to his knees, leaning on his sword, much to Tian Xianzi's dismay. Not even a chance to show off. A future master? An unknown outer sect disciple, taken as a direct disciple by an elder with a single sentence. The arena erupted. What was an outer sect disciple? Someone with meager spiritual energy and mediocre talent, not even qualified to enter the inner sect. Just speaking to an elder was considered fortunate. Seeing the matter settled, Ningning was about to return to her courtyard when she unexpectedly saw a figure in white beside her. It was her senior Brother Mengju. It was said this senior brother was gentle and refined, always wearing a smile. But only Ningning knew he was a black-hearted lotus through and through. Before entering the sect, Mengju had been the only son of a wealthy merchant family. Due to his parents' misplaced trust in a villain, his family suffered a devastating massacre when he was 12, everything seized by his father's most trusted friend. Though polite to everyone, he never offered genuine sincerity, maintaining an untouchable distance. Mengju smiled gently. Little sister Ningning, Master asked me to tell you before he left to be sure to cultivate diligently. Strive to improve your swordsmanship soon. Mingming obediently nodded, figuring it was time for him to cause trouble again. Sure enough, a buzzing sound rang in her head. Asterisk Mengju's swordsmanship is superb, his cultivation level high. Although you know he's outstanding, your unruly and willful personality leaves you helpless against him. Why not try a honey trap and make him fall for you? Asterisk. Wouldn't secret techniques and magical treasures be easily obtained? Please say the following lines to Mengju. Mingming's fingers gently tugged on Mengju's sleeve. The young woman's body exuded a delicate fragrance, her voice as alluring as a wisp of smoke. Her lips trembled slightly. She wanted to cover her eyes and yell, "My eyes, my eyes." Aster's original host, this kind of thinking is not good. Why do you always want to take advantage of others? A universally admired, talented swordsman, Asterisk. Why do you have to cling to him? Mingming couldn't understand. But the system didn't care if she understood or not. The lines had to be delivered. She was supposed to appear weak and sorrowful while saying these lines, but she simply didn't have the audacity. Her face remained expressionless, her body motionless, like a line-reading machine. Asterisk, senior brother, I'm so heartbroken. Now even Master wants to take him as a disciple. I have no one else to rely on. Only you, senior brother, can help me. Asterisk, Mengju didn't speak. Mingming took a deep breath and continued in a near-suicidal tone. Asterisk, so, are you free tonight at the hour of high? Asterisk, already prepared for a blunt rejection. Mingming was surprised when Mengju hesitated for a moment, then unexpectedly curved his beautiful peach blossom eyes. Asterisk, oh, asterisk, asterisk, how about I teach you some things beyond your years? How? How intriguing. Asterisk, asterisk, you said what? Are you crazy? Or am I crazy? Asterisk. Asterisk, since when do you speak so bluntly? Is this your character setting? Has the world finally gone mad? Asterisk Ningning hadn't expected Mengju to be true to his word. He actually came to the small courtyard at the hour of high, her back pressed tightly against his chest, their sweat-dampened black hair intertwined, reflecting a warm ambiguity in the moonlight. Her entire body was enveloped in a barely tolerable heat. Mengju leaned exceptionally close, his warm breath carrying the scent of green lime and bamboo, lingering on the most sensitive hollow of her neck. Asterisk, is little junior sister tired? Asterisk, Ningning no longer had the strength to nod. Asterisk, duh. If you continuously practice swordsmanship for 3 hours, wouldn't you be tired? How could you treat a beautiful young maiden like this? Mengju, you have no conscience. Asterisk, what he meant by things beyond your years was a set of incredibly difficult, earth-shattering, spirit-shaking high-level sword techniques. After one round, she was half dead from exhaustion. It truly was a burden her age couldn't bear. But Mengju didn't see it that way at all. When little junior sister first spoke, he subconsciously thought that Mingming had ulterior motives. He initially intended to refuse, but her expression was truly too awful. Have you ever seen someone invite a man for a midnight rendezvous with a deadpan face? Her expression was a mixture of shame, shyness, and resentment, but the most prominent emotion was a suicidal resolve. This clearly meant that after losing to the outer disciple, she was unwilling to accept defeat and wanted to ask for advice on swordsmanship. Understood that way, everything made sense. This is what a sword cultivator is like. Unexpectedly, the naturally arrogant little junior sister was so diligent. Mengju was deeply moved. Senior brother, Ningning, who had been practicing continuously for 3 hours, had eyes like a dead fish. She felt like a young sword cultivator had lost his dream tonight. I can't learn it. Asterisk, I'm just an ordinary, vicious female supporting character. Is this the fate a vicious female supporting character should endure? Asterisk, Ningning felt more wrong than Xiang Lin's wife. I'm so stupid. Really, she felt that this entire sect was abnormal. and besides the 3 she had already met, there were still several other capture targets left. Heaven knows what kind of demons and monsters were hidden among those people, waiting to torment her in various ways. Senior Brother's ethereal voice drifted to her ears, as gentle as jade, as considerate as could be. Asterisk, little junior sister, you have already learned this sword technique. You only need to practice more, and you will definitely make a breakthrough. Cultivators must avoid giving up halfway. Asterisk, each syllable was filled with unshakable certainty and confidence. Asterisk, senior brother, I really can't learn it. Asterisk, I can't learn it. The golden snake sword technique has countless variations. It definitely can't be learned overnight. Asterisk, fortunately, Meng Ju had a magnanimous sword heart and was considered the most outstanding teacher among his peers. Ming Ming's body was also exceptionally talented. In less than 3 days, she was able to grasp the basics. The most important point was that by following Senior Brother, she had food to eat. That's right. Among the impoverished sword cultivators, Meng Ju stood out from the crowd. He was a wealthy person who could afford to eat in the dining hall. The Xuanqu sword sect was poor. Meng Ju chuckled softly, the very picture of a refined and elegant gentleman. His peach blossom eyes sparkled like a starry river. Asterisk, little junior sister, Xuanqu is the #1 sect in the world of cultivation. Naturally, it wouldn't withhold funds. It's not the sect that's poor, but the people who spend the money. Looking at everyone, there aren't many who dedicate everything to the pursuit of cultivation like Master. Asterisk, Ningning tilted her head in thought, right? Their carefree sword master, Shifu, flies all over the world. If he sees a good sword or sword manual, he'll buy it no matter the cost. The original host was pampered and spoiled, spending money without restraint. Becoming penniless was her destiny. Little junior brother is also a big spender. Not to mention, as a member of the royal family, he's never experienced hardship. He's been cheated out of who knows how many snacks. As for their eldest senior sister, whom she hasn't met yet, according to the original story, she's a drunkard who lives only for the present. Only swords, wine, and beautiful people are precious in life. It turns out that it's not the entire Xuanqu sword sect that's impoverished, but their bizarre Qing Xuan lineage. Birds of a feather flock together. A bunch of paupers gathered together, what a sight. After practicing swordsmanship with Meng Ju for 3 days, Ningning received a communication talisman from her Shifu, Tian Xinzi, inviting her to his residence. Her newly accepted little junior brother is the male lead, Pei Ji. The paper crane-shaped communication talisman was gently crumpled in her hand. Ningning squinted at the door, a faint smile playing on her lips. Everything before was just child's play. The upcoming plot isn't very kind to her. The vicious little junior sister, in order to capture the heart of the Dragon Palace's little prince, and the cold and arrogant little junior brother, actually dared to enter the Futu Pagoda alone to gain favor. According to Tian Xinzi, the mountaintop is desolate. The foot of the mountain has no prestige. Building a residence between the mountain and the clouds is truly living like a celestial. The book never described his residence in detail, so when Ningning arrived at the mountainside of Yuhing Peak, she couldn't help but freeze. At first glance, it was a beautifully carved, pleasing garden-style building with silver engravings and jade ornaments. Looking closer, it was easy to spot the flaws. The jewels in the dragon's eyes were missing. Several exquisite wood carvings had been taken. Faint marks remained on the wall where paintings had hung. The paintings were gone. The empty hall was devoid of furniture, like a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. Only a huge shell remained. It said he once tried to auction off this house within the sect to buy a Shanqing sword. The other elders intervened and pooled their money to stop him. After all, it wouldn't look good if word got out that the esteemed elder Tian Xinzi of Xuanqu sword sect was so poor he had to sell his house. Ningning easily sensed his presence. She turned and waved with a grin that I heard you mastered the golden snake sword technique in 3 days. Impressive. It was worth selling my pants to bring you back to the sect. Who wants to hear about you selling your pants? Were you naked when you came back? Ningning thought the entire golden snake sword technique was rather indecent. The image of golden snake shadows made her involuntarily picture her Shifu holding the sword manual, his legs flapping in the wind during flight. It was just too much. Thank you, Shifu, Ningning replied with a smile. Looking around, she noticed two others in the hall. Lin Sun, dressed in blue, stood with Pei Ji. Upon seeing her, Pei Ji's round, dark eyes lit up, and he called out, "Little senior sister." Pei Ji, on the other hand, stood entirely in the shadows. "This is your new little junior brother, Pei Ji. You two should know each other." Tian Xianzi was clearly oblivious to the existence of jealousy. His obliviousness was boundless. No wonder the original host dared to act so recklessly. Although he was previously an outer disciple, he has now reached the second level of the Golden Core realm. More importantly, his sword heart is exceptional. You should spar more often. You'll both benefit greatly. Ningning gave him a faint smile. Asterisk little junior brother. He smiles so beautifully. I must get him back. Asterisk Pei Ji thought. Asterisk this girl is actually my senior sister. This must be fate. Asterisk a surge of jealous energy churned within him. The young man suppressed his jealousy with spiritual energy, his expression remaining impassive. Senior sister frowned upon seeing him. Ningning, however, said nothing, turning her attention to Tian Xianzi. Why did you call us here today? Lin Sun's face paled slightly. Shifu, don't tell me you want the three of us to have a sword fight. Tian Xianzi declared righteously, would I let my precious disciples get hurt in a fight? Shifu actually cared so much for them. The little white dragon gasped in surprise. Before he could express his gratitude, he heard him continue, if you get injured, wouldn't I have to pay for the medical expenses? No. Lin Sun fell silent. So. Tian Xianzi chuckled. How about you three go to the Futu Pagoda? The Futu Pagoda is a training ground for Xuanxu Sword Sect disciples. The pagoda has 100 levels. Each level houses an illusionary realm. Only by overcoming the illusion can one enter the next level. The difficulty increases with each level. Trapped within are the lingering spirits of countless deceased kings and Azuras. The ingenuity of the plot and the realism of the illusions are no different from real-world experiences. The level has been chosen. As a special privilege, I can open the 40th level directly for you. A night visit to the Star-Plucking Pavilion is just right for Golden Core cultivators. I wonder if you're interested in giving it a try. I've heard of the Star-Plucking Pavilion. Without a second thought, the original host jumped right in. That's how she ended up beaten bloody in that wretched place and thrown out of the illusion on the spot. She lay in bed for the rest of the night. The Star-Plucking Pavilion illusion, moonlight and starlight, like scattered crystals, adorned the flower boats drifting down the river. The singing girls' melodies drifted on the wind, softening the bones. The riverside buildings rose countless stories high. Amongst the elaborate carvings and embroidered canopies, the glazed tiles reflected the bright moonlight, draping the entire tower in a soft, gentle glow, like a light veil of mist. A paradise on earth. The Star-Plucking Pavilion is a pleasure house. Tian Xianzi really knows how to pick them. Although the three of them entered the illusion at the same time, they were separated once inside. The naive and innocent little white dragon had to rescue a singing girl from the clutches of a dissolute young man. So, filled with trepidation, he arrived at the location where the plot was triggered, only to find that the grinning scoundrel, surrounded by women, was actually his little senior sister. Although the three of them entered the illusion at the same time, they were separated once inside. Before he could even respond, he heard a commotion. Just a touch. What's the big deal? Putting on airs, are we? I'm so sorry, sir. He's new here. He doesn't know the rules. Apologize quickly. Such a cliché plot, like a romance novel from 20 years ago. Knowing the script, Ningning slowly turned around, meeting a pair of tear-filled eyes. A young man in yellow robes glared and cursed. The young woman in pink covered her face and sobbed, stubbornly turning her head away. When her gaze met Ningning's, her eyes flickered slightly. Ningning turned away, expressionless. A brothel, a damsel in distress. Such a tired trope. Those demons are really laying it on thick. This is a trap set by the boss. The bully girl is fake. The arrogant man is fake. If someone tries to play the hero, the girl will lead them to a room under the guise of gratitude, then watch as her face splits open, revealing a twisted, monstrous visage. The Star-Plucking Pavilion appears to be an ordinary pleasure district, but the women here are actually demons, the skeletal remains of mortals, controlled by the White Bone Lady. To them, a cultivator is nothing more than a warm meal. The main quest of the illusion isn't actually difficult. Although the White Bone Lady is formidable, with the three of them combined, she's not a threat. The only unexpected thing is that this illusion contains a once-in-a-century opportunity. It was at this point, exhausted, that the original host was beaten half to death. Ningning certainly wouldn't repeat that mistake. Although she had to diligently play the role of the villainous female supporting character that was only under the system's compulsion. The original host suffered a lot, and Ningning wanted no part of it. This is why Ningning put all her effort into learning the Golden Snake Sword technique. She didn't want to rely on others, like the original host, to barely survive in the cultivation world. With such exceptional talent, she should rely on her own strength to overcome adversity. This time, she absolutely would not be thrown out of the illusion covered in blood. Seeing her deliberately look away, the girl choked back a sob. "Miss, please help me." Ningning internally rolled her eyes. Helping would only mark her as food for the demons. The girl covered her face and cried. Does the miss disdain Lingbo's low birth and refuse to help? Ningning didn't hesitate, yes. The girl's face twitched. Sorry, villainous female supporting characters have no morals. They can't be guilt-tripped. Several people's expressions froze. Something wasn't right. This girl was radiating sword chi. She should be an ordinary brothel girl. How could you be like this? What surprised them even more was yet to come. The yellow-clad girl smiled faintly and casually put her arm around another girl's waist. I'll take this one. Then she looked around, surveying the scene with satisfaction. He unexpectedly pulled the woman in the red dress over. This older sister isn't bad either. The young lady tentatively spoke. I've already accompanied that young master over there tonight. So what? Ningning immediately replied, it's like we've met before. It's just a touch. Why act so high and mighty? The woman looked at the man with tears in her eyes. Young master, please help me. The man indignantly said, Tian-ing, you shameless villain. He was about to force the issue, but froze mid-sentence. Hey, he doesn't give a damn about a single coin. He's the villain, isn't he? A woman resembling a madam stepped forward, smiling awkwardly. Which gentleman does the young lady prefer? Ningning raised her eyes and clenched her right hand. I'll take them both. Her senior brother had told her, sword cultivators must be confident. Lin Sun arrived at the star-plucking pavilion a bit later than Ningning. He had heard from his senior brothers and sisters that there was a hero saves the beauty scene in this pavilion. He was supposed to rescue a singing girl from a certain ill-behaved, dissolute young master. He arrived at the scene full of apprehension, only to see that scoundrel with a girl on each arm, grinning from ear to ear. He was holding one of the girl's hands, shamelessly saying, don't be afraid. If I don't pay, it doesn't count as being a dissolute scoundrel. That villain, the one he was about to teach a lesson to, was his little senior sister. Ningning politely returned his smile upon seeing him. He wasn't interested in what little white dragon was thinking. His only thought was how to subdue that ultimate monster without getting hurt. To prevent the ghost mother from realizing, Ningning directly revealed her identity to stall for time. Outside the illusion, at the bottom of Yuhing Peak, a young man in blue robes leaned lazily against a banyan tree in the courtyard. Junior brother, Tian Xinzi's voice rang out, vigorous and full of energy. A gust of sword chi rustled the branches of the tree. Even the air seemed to still for a moment. Hold on. Tian Xinzi couldn't bear to take his eyes off the hanging mirror, raising a hand to dispel the approaching sword light that I'm watching my little disciple's trial. Let's fight another day. Zhen Xiao, the sword sovereign, snorted coldly and stood beside him. That a lowly place like the star-plucking pavilion requires your attention. This star-plucking pavilion is different from usual. The wind was sharp like a sword, slicing through the shadows of the trees. The sword sovereign's unfathomably deep eyes lowered slightly, finally settling on the bronze mirror. Your disciples are only at the Golden Core 7th stage. Running into such a monster, I'm afraid the odds are stacked against them. That's not necessarily true. The young man in blue robes bent down, his fingertip tracing across the mirror's surface, creating ripples that danced across the beautiful face of the girl in white. That monster is certainly dangerous, but my little disciple also has some unexpected tricks up her sleeve. The image on the mirror showed the main entrance of the star-plucking pavilion. Carriages and horses filled the streets. The flamboyant young woman laughed wantonly, the very image of a carefree playboy. Zhun Xiao frowned. I remember the evildoer at the gate was a man. When did the Futu Pagoda change him into a young woman? And she's even embracing others left and right. The people who designed this illusion have truly strange tastes. Tian Xinzi chuckled, not ashamed but proud. That's my disciple. Didn't expect that. Did you, Sword Sovereign? A crack finally appeared on the Sword Sovereign's perpetually calm face. Your disciple is even more outrageous than the original villain. And she's definitely robbing them. Even that man in yellow robes can't stand it. Do young people play so openly these days? The star-plucking pavilion loves the flesh and blood of righteous cultivators. This way, those female demons will likely be too disgusted with her to pay much attention. Interesting. Worthy of being my disciple. Tian Xinzi grinned. Perhaps Ningning has already noticed something is amiss. What do you think she'll do next? Sword Sovereign Zhun Xiao didn't seem concerned. I'll watch with you until the end. When they come out, we'll go to Fengding Peak for a sword fight. Tian Xinzi blinked rapidly. Senior brother, I feel rather tired today. I'm afraid 10,000 spiritual hours might tire me to death. Though my body may shatter and my soul may break, I fear not. I shall remain in this world for senior brother. The young woman in yellow followed the madam upstairs. Ningning then arrived at a private room within the star-plucking pavilion. After she had finished embracing both women, the madam reminded her, beauties in the same room should avoid jealousy, lest it ruin the girls' relationships. Ningning vaguely agreed, thinking to herself, I'm afraid the ruined relationships are real. But the jealousy is fake. Two demons fighting over a piece of human flesh. How can they not have conflict? The white bone lady fed on the flesh and blood of living people, using it to refine her cultivation. Because her appearance was different from humans, she always wore a human skin mask. Only when she opened her bloody maw to eat would her true form be revealed. But she wouldn't have guessed. He smugly thought the female demons were under his control, but they had already changed masters. What is this girl thinking? Zhaoyan poured him a cup of tea, her laughter soft. Could it be that she finds Zhaoyan boring? Her eyes are clearly glazed over. Indeed, the yellow-robed woman beside him twitched her lips. Quickly replacing the twitch with a smile, she continued, Zhaoyan is completely devoted to you, yet you only think of those sisters who aren't here. It's truly heartbreaking. Since you chose Zhaoyan to enter your room, I naturally assumed you favored me. Ningning was still thinking about how to deal with the ghost mother, absent-mindedly giving him empty platitudes. Hearing this, the yellow-robed woman smiled. However, in the next instant, the smile froze. The shameless philanderer, his expression unchanged, said, but my liking you doesn't conflict with my liking those other sisters. I am a cultivator, pursuing universal love. You and your sisters are all part of everything under heaven. Isn't it only natural that I like all of you? My affection for you is selfless. It's the great way. The yellow-robed woman's face twisted, forcing a smile and why liking for you is truly without selfish intent. Liar. Ningning glanced at her, speaking without pause. In one breath, she continued, since you like me, you should try to make me happy. I won't be happy if you're with other sisters. Doesn't that contradict what you just said? Sister, it seems you still don't understand the universal love of us sword cultivators. These words left even Zhaoyan, a seasoned demon, completely stunned. Asterisk, have you no shame? What kind of universal love is this? He's just playing the field and making it sound so high-minded. Asterisk, instead of listening to his rambling, it's better to just finish him off and eat him. Having made up her mind, she was about to strike. But then she heard Ningning say, let me tell you a secret. The girl took a step closer, lowering her voice and speaking softly. I am a disciple of the Xuanxu sword sect. I've already seen through your disguise. You're a demon. Actually, Ningning didn't want to reveal her identity directly. This woman was clearly about to attack her. If she knocked her out or killed her here, it would definitely be noticed by the ghost mother. But she hadn't yet figured out a concrete strategy to deal with that monster. She could only reveal her identity to buy some time. Ningning had transmigrated into the vicious junior sister of a cultivation novel. To survive, she must eliminate the ghost mother of Mount Yin. Zhaoyan dropped the pretense, her face filled with murderous intent. You lie. The Xuanxu sword sect is full of powerful sword cultivators. How could one be such a young girl? Ningning effortlessly deflected the incoming attack. Nonsense. My strength far surpasses yours. No need to lie and waste time. His spiritual energy was profound, his cultivation indeed much higher than hers. Zhao attack was easily blocked. She knew she was no match for this girl. Unfortunately, there was no one else here, no way to call for help. A demon caught by a cultivator was certainly doomed. She gritted her teeth, thinking of a plan. This girl looked frail and wore a mask. Maybe if she fabricated a lie, claiming to be coerced by the white bone lady. Zhao decided to act. She immediately squeezed out a few tears. "Please save me, miss. I was forced into this. I had no choice but to commit such heinous acts. You don't know, the white bone lady at the top of the building kills and drinks blood, committing all sorts of evil. If I don't obey her commands, I'll end up dead on the streets." She finished, sobbing and wailing, a picture of misery. No one who saw her could remain unmoved. Sure enough, the young swordswoman was stunned. Righteously, she declared, "I knew it. Sister, seeing how frail and gentle you are, I knew you couldn't be evil. Don't worry, I will definitely get justice for you." Asterisk, so naive. Even the cheesy martial arts novels from 10 years ago wouldn't write something like this. Asterisk. Asterisk, as long as I can stall her. I can take the opportunity to leave the room and alert the others. When the time comes, all the demons in the building will swarm her. This little girl won't stand a chance. Asterisk. Zhao was confident in her acting, enough to fool her completely. "Thank you, Mississippi. As long as you're willing to deal with the white bone lady, Zhao will do everything in her power to assist you." Ningning pondered for a moment, still looking quite innocent that what's really going on in this building. "Can you tell me?" "We are mountain demons, forced here by the white bone lady to absorb the spiritual energy of mortals. The faces of the girls in this building are all beautiful human skins, used to deceive the customers and win their hearts." Truly a naive, fledgling disciple. A look of fear appeared in the girl's eyes. "The masks, are they made by directly peeling off human faces?" "The faces are formed from spiritual energy, not human flesh and blood. If there are beautiful female guests, we can also create illusions that look exactly like them for future use." To comfort the frightened little girl and show his kindness and consideration, he flicked his finger, and a mask identical to Lingling's appeared in his hand out of thin air. "Just like this, like this." Lingling carefully took it, lost in thought for a moment. Zhao nodded submissively, not daring to interrupt, while inwardly scheming for an excuse to leave. A gust of wind swept across the windowsill, bringing a bone-chilling coldness. For some reason, the fear in the little girl beside him seemed to vanish, replaced by what sounded like whispers of extreme delight. "I've got an idea." Zhao wondered curiously what she'd thought of. He saw the girl's eyes curve into crescents, her voice warm and gentle as she spoke. But her words sent a chill down his spine. "How should I flatten this building?" he thought. Then, with a sweet smile, he said, "Thank you, sister." As soon as she finished speaking, a flash of light pierced the thick night, striking Zhao body. The demoness face was full of disbelief. "You bastard! I should have eaten you long ago." Ningning, feigning a hurt expression, replied, "Why are you so fierce? I wasn't talking about eating people. I was being coerced. Are you lying to me?" He gently brushed the mask on her face, his expression serious and tender. "Less trickery, more sincerity. Please don't lie anymore, okay?" The demoness blew out a puff of white smoke, her lips twitching. "That should be my line. Killing demons and breaking hearts. Even the cheesy romance novels from 10 years ago wouldn't write it like this." Worthy of the Een Mountain ghost mother's lair, hidden beneath the star-plucking pavilion. Ningning, comparing her surroundings to the original text, fumbled around until she finally found the incredibly hidden passage. The moment she opened the hidden door, the stench of blood rushed out from the opening. The narrow passage amplified the smell. It opened into a wide, circular cavern, shaped like a gradually filling water droplet. In the center stood a creature with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a spider. This was the infamous Een Mountain ghost mother. Hearing footsteps, the ghost mother opened her vacant eyes. Who's there? A sword cultivator. Ningning, unhesitatingly revealing her demonic mark, smiled faintly. "Indeed, I've heard of the Een Mountain ghost mother's formidable power. How have you fallen to stealing spiritual essence? This star-plucking pavilion isn't what it seems. Aren't you afraid of its true owner finding out?" The ghost mother sneered, the countless spider silks in the cavern stirring in response. "I'll use spiritual essence as I please, and come and go from the star-plucking pavilion as I please. Do you think I'm afraid of that useless thing on the top floor?" "Oh," she raised an eyebrow, "that you're gravely injured. I doubt you can fight back. A joke. I am the true master of this building now." That demoness thinks she's in control, but she doesn't know that every little demon in this pavilion is my puppet. Once my power is fully restored, I'll snatch this star-plucking pavilion from her hands. A mere sword cultivator. Do you really think you can take me down? The spider silks shot down, each as sharp as a needle, weaving into a dense white net. They flew straight towards the girl at the cavern entrance. Ningning didn't dodge. An invisible force blocked her, repelling the aggressive web. "It's not me who wants to take you down," she smiled, stepping aside to reveal another figure, her tone now laced with respect. "Madam, you heard all that, right?" The Een Mountain ghost mother froze. In a narrow, lightless passage, shrouded in deep darkness, Ningning, in order to eliminate the two demonesses, had actually devised a plan to utterly humiliate them. The white bone lady furrowed her brows, a hiss escaping her throat that I've been restless lately. "So it's some wild chicken from the mountains making a fool of herself, stealing my spiritual essence? You're not worthy. Your little mouth is good at flapping, yapping like a dog here. I'll barbecue you." Being caught red-handed stealing wasn't glorious, even for the Een Mountain ghost mother. She paused for a moment, then said with a harsher tone, "What? Do you want to team up with a righteous sword cultivator against me?" The sword cultivator clearly intended to let them fight and reap the benefits. If the white bone lady wasn't stupid, she should join forces with her and eliminate the girl first. Ningning chuckled softly and ripped off her mask, revealing her true face. It was a face he vaguely recognized, but couldn't quite place, a female demon from the pavilion. He'd miscalculated. The sword cultivator was just a ruse. Their real goal was to set him up. They were just using him. Confess the truth. It's impossible that the Een Mountain ghost mother is this enraged. You clearly have a sword cultivator's sword on you, and my puppet was killed by a sword cultivator. There's absolutely no mistake. A few sword cultivators did come to the pavilion today. Who knows which one killed the demon? Zhaoyan clumsily picked up the sword, like a child, examining the patterns on it with interest. The cultivator I was serving drank too much. He unintentionally told me that they came here to eliminate the Een Mountain ghost mother. Speaking of which, I really have to thank him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known that there was a thief hiding in the pavilion. As for this sword, to make the act complete, I purposely got him drunk and stole it. Otherwise, how could I fool your discerning eyes? You were actually completely fooled by such a low-level demon. The Een Mountain ghost mother trembled with rage. Using all her strength, she could only squeeze out a few words, "You're finished." As they spoke, a strong wind arose. A foul stench carried a thick, bloody scent. The ever-burning lamps flickered. A gust of wind swept past. Zhaoyan staggered back several steps in disbelief, slammed against the stone wall. Damn, that blow. He didn't even have the strength to get up. He lay there like a dead fish, seemingly casual, yet secretly profound. The poisonous bees have already entered my vital organs. As expected of the Een Mountain ghost mother, truly vicious. The Een Mountain ghost mother was stunned for a moment, then actually started explaining herself. "You really are an idiot. I barely used any force at all, okay?" Seemingly casual, yet secretly profound. It was just a gust of wind. Ignoring her shocked gaze, Zhaoyan turned to the white bone lady, his voice barely a whisper. "Madam, please eliminate this for our sisters in the pavilion." Before he could finish, his head drooped, his eyes closed. He was done for. The Een Mountain ghost mother is bluffing. She's definitely putting on an act, the wretch. How could someone be so shameless? There are always such brazen people in the world. But the idiotic white bone lady actually believed it. In her skeletal eyes, there was 60% rage and 40% contempt. She stole my spiritual essence, harmed my sisters, and caused their deaths. A great battle was imminent. The Een Mountain ghost mother could only fight back. Layers upon layers of spider silk, each strand imbued with deadly poison and bloodlust, rained down like countless silver needles. Targeting the white bone lady's head, the woman in the red dress coldly snorted. Behind and in front of her, countless bone spikes suddenly appeared, like a sentient army, firmly protecting their master in the center. For a moment, the cave was filled with a blinding white. The sticky, crimson blood on the stone walls added to the grotesque and eerie atmosphere. The direct confrontation between the two female demons never ceased. Amidst the flashing lights and shadows, the white bone lady coughed up blood, knocked to the ground. Although the Een Mountain ghost mother still had some strength left, she wasn't in great shape either. At this moment, she gave a jingji hideous grin. Didn't expect this, did you waste? Today is my. She stopped mid-sentence, startled. The little demon in the corner, who should have been unconscious, had opened his eyes, looking at her with a hint of a smile. Zhao Yan, now revealed as Ningning, laughed. White Bone Lady, quickly, take me out with the cloud-soaring umbrella. This was their prearranged plan. If the White Bone Lady was losing, Ningning would use the cloud-soaring umbrella to escape in a flash. That oldie mountain hag thought she could finish them off today. She would never have expected they had a trick up their sleeve. Didn't expect this, did you? Suddenly, the White Bone Lady's expression also froze. The air was filled with a joyful atmosphere. For a moment, it was a bit awkward. Ningning reached up and touched her temple, gently pulling. The fake skin on her face came off, revealing why it was still that familiar face. Smiling gently, she spoke the words neither of them had a chance to say. Didn't expect this, did you? I prepared 2 faces. Ningning, to protect her 2 junior brothers, practiced the Golden Snake sword technique day and night just to eliminate the Een Mountain Ghost Mother one day. It all started a while ago. After eliminating the demon Zhao Yan, Ningning effortlessly obtained the mask identical to her own face. Besides this, naturally, she couldn't forget the human face already stuck to the demoness face. This way, she had 2 disguises. One was Ningning, the Xuanqiu sword sect disciple, used to coax information from the Ghost Mother. The other was Zhao Yan, the demoness from the Jiaxin Pavilion, used to gain the White Bone Lady's trust. I'm entertaining a guest tonight. My appetite is ruined, she said. He actually claimed that the Jiaxin Pavilion's basement hid the century-old Great Demon, the Een Mountain Ghost Mother. Rumor has it that the Een Mountain Ghost Mother also cultivates by consuming human essence. A few years ago, she was injured by the righteous sects, and her whereabouts became unknown. Could it be that the dwindling vital energy in the pavilion has something to do with her? The White Bone Lady wasn't completely foolish and hesitantly asked about the sword cultivator's business. The man claimed the Xuanqiu sword sect disciple, Zhao Yan, didn't dare act rashly, so I first got her drunk and then came to report to you. This story, with its yin and yang, bones and all, was logically sound and simply impeccable. Moreover, Ningning had also subtly set a trap. She placed the human face, which had been hidden in her sleeve, in her palm. It was Zhao Yan's face that, if you don't believe me, take Zhao Yan to confront this lady. That venomous woman will surely admit her evil deeds and transform. Changing faces is a unique method of the lowly demons. So loyal, so meticulous, so thoughtful. She could even conjure a human skin mask. This must be Zhao Yan's true face. What's there to doubt? So, the White Bone Lady was brought here by her. The White Bone Lady regretted it. She thought she had brought a loyal follower. The result was a double-crossing traitor with a heart as black as coal. Not only did she use her as a tool from beginning to end, but she also sold her out without hesitation. The Een Mountain Ghost Mother flew into a rage, gritting her teeth and chanting an incantation on the blood-stained stone walls. Tree branches bearing crimson, poisonous beads sprouted. A faint, snowy light flickered across the pervasive spider silk. You think this is the end? I am the Een Mountain Ghost Mother. I command millions of netherworld offspring. Now, with my power still intact, what can your little sword cultivator do to me? Mingming touched the cold heart scar scabbard in her hand, finally understanding the situation. Then allow me to introduce myself as well. Heart scar was unsheathed. A pearl-like light ascended, like a starry river. The sword rose like a tide, instantly filling the dark cave. Suppressing the oncoming sinister wind, she said, I am a disciple of Celestial Tian Xinzi of the Xuanqiu sword sect. You can call me. She paused, then continued in a half-joking tone. Thousand-layer pancake. Heart Scar's light grew, unrestrained under the dim, perpetually burning lamps within the room, like a hazy, moonlit veil. The poisonous beads that came surging forth were all cut down by the sword in an instant. The Een Mountain Ghost Mother was startled. She originally thought this girl was bluffing. However, seeing the latter's movements and cultivation level while fighting, she realized she had already reached the second level of the core formation realm or higher. Moreover, her speed was astonishing. Her sword chi fierce, and her movements like a phantom, difficult to discern. Is this the swordsmanship a righteous sword cultivator should learn? Outside the Xianjing mirror, Sword Sovereign Jun, Xiao wiped his slightly sweaty hands. Pants-selling swordsmanship. He still hadn't forgotten the incident where his junior brother sold his pants to buy sword manuals. It's the golden snake swordsmanship. She only learned it a few days ago, yet she can use it so skillfully. Tian Xianzi ignored him, watching with delight and clapping her hands, adapting to the situation. Not bad, not bad. It seems the ghost mother spiders are all going to be eaten by the venomous snakes. Zhun Xiao remained indifferent as he watched intently. The ghost mother is making a move. The Yin Mountain ghost mother wasn't stupid. She naturally understood that she shouldn't engage in a direct confrontation with Ningning at this time. Now that the latter's attention was mostly drawn to the poisonous beads, it was the perfect opportunity for a surprise attack from behind. A fleeting smile flashed across the woman's lips. The 8 slender spider legs beneath her tensed, poised to strike. After a brief preparation, she launched herself forward with explosive force. The Yin Mountain ghost mother's movements were incredibly fast. By the time Mingming sensed a gust of sinister wind behind her and hurriedly turned around, the ghost mother was already close beside her. However, contrary to expectations, Mingming didn't show the shock and fear that the ghost mother had anticipated. The young girl seemed to have anticipated this. She raised an eyebrow slightly. Then the light from her sword surged, directly confronting the ghost mother's attack. The murky, dim pupils of the ghost mother suddenly constricted. This swordsmanship. Outside the Xianjing mirror, Tian Xianzi excitedly stood up abruptly, letting her teacup fall to the ground. This is a move not recorded in the Golden Snake swordsmanship. Ningning has actually comprehended swordsmanship beyond the basic skills. The cold and aloof senior brother Pei Ji, harboring demonic blood within him, had been deeply eroded by demonic energy for many years. Not only did he frequently suffer intense pain, but his temperament also became exceptionally sinister and ruthless. Serpent out of the cave, serpent's 1,000 illusions. Converging at the moment the golden snake sword was thrust, a dazzling golden light soared upwards, resembling a rising azure dragon. 1,000 small snakes were not enough to devour a giant beast, but an azure dragon could easily do so. This move is called Scaled Serpent Transforming into Dragon. It's commonly used to break through layers of spider silk and pierce the ghost mother's heart with precision. Ningning smiled faintly at him. I don't practice my swordsmanship, and senior brother won't give me food. You should blame him. When she was reading the original story, the original host was injured by his poisonous pigs. Knowing those things were difficult to deal with, Ningning was especially diligent when learning the golden snake sword technique from her senior brother. The Yin Mountain ghost mother collapsed to the ground, her face full of disbelief, and gradually stopped breathing. A small, round, emerald green pig slowly floated up from where her heart had been. Ningning grasped it in her hand. Since it was a rare, once-in-a-century prize, there was bound to be a very special reward. This Yin Mountain Ghost Orb, condensed from the ghost mother's cultivation and toxicity, was the spoils of this victory. Following the narrator's words, the barrier in the underground cavern began to tremble, as if it could collapse at any moment. Ningning grabbed the orb and hurried out. Finally reaching the entrance, she saw the orange light. Also catching her, I was a familiar black figure. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and a sharp sword energy surged towards her. Immediately afterward, there was a loud boom as stones were blasted apart. The figure had deflected a stone that was about to fall on her head. Little senior sister, are you all right? Another white figure appeared at the entrance. It was Lin's son, whom she hadn't seen for a while. Seeing Ningning safe and sound, he instinctively reached out and grabbed her arm, quickly pulling her out of the tunnel. Ningning patted her chest, still shaken. That scared me to death. Thank you, little junior brother. She paused, then turned to look at Pei Ji, who had saved her life. You too? Thank you, Pei Ji. He still maintained a distant demeanor, his dark eyes filled with the lingering energy of the battle, appearing somewhat elegant. Ningning didn't mind his cold indifference. She had something more important on her mind. If she hadn't interfered, according to the original plot, Pei Ji, the male protagonist, should have been the one to kill the ghost mother and obtain the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb. Although the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb was highly toxic, it could suppress the demonic bloodline hidden within Pei Ji. He had been plagued by demonic energy for years, causing him constant pain and making him sinister and ruthless. Having the ghost orb would ease his suffering. With a humph, Ningning tossed the emerald green orb at him. The Yin Mountain ghost mother in the cave has been dealt with by me. This orb dropped. Consider it a thank you gift. I don't want to owe you my life. Pei Ji was taken aback. That I don't need. You can keep it. I don't want this broken orb. Before Ningning could finish speaking, someone knocked her hard on the head. When she opened her eyes again, the luxurious surroundings had vanished like smoke. The three of them were back in Tian Xinzi's shabby courtyard. This is no ordinary orb. It's the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb, containing most of the Ghost Mother's lifelong cultivation. It's a rare treasure. You silly girl, I was going to praise your performance today, but you're so clueless. Serves you right for being broke, he said, his eyes crinkling with a smile, and reached into his other sleeve. Zhen Xiao and I have been watching your mock trial. Ningning's performance was the most outstanding. You even grasped the essence of the golden snake sword technique. Today, you are the best disciple. I prepared a small gift for you as a reward. Take this and eat whatever you want. Ningning's eyes lit up. Anything I want? Could it be some super advanced token that makes the cafeteria ladies bow down and serve me? Thank you, Master. Master is the best. Even poor people have true love. Then Ningning's smile froze. Tian Xinzi chuckled darkly, and with a flick of his wrist, pulled a pair of chopsticks from his sleeve. Ningning's eyes widened. Take these chopsticks and eat whatever you want. Flawless logic. Truly worthy of being my master. Ningning transmigrated into the body of the villainous junior sister in a cultivation novel. To win over her righteous and aloof senior brother, she offered him the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb. Pei Ji intended to return the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb. Before, Ningning had thought it was a useless trinket, so giving it away was understandable. But now that Tian Xinzi had revealed its true value, she must be regretting her impulsive action. The young man frowned slightly and spoke in a low, somewhat unnatural voice. Senior sister. The male lead shouldn't like this arrogant and spoiled little senior sister. Could her sudden change of heart mean? Mingming quickly hid the chopsticks in her arms. What are you looking at me for? Jealous I got chopsticks? Not sharing. Not sharing. Just kidding. A vicious female supporting character wouldn't be so generous. The male lead must be unhappy that I got the chopsticks as a reward. He keeps staring at them. Didn't he already give him the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb? Pei Ji was very puzzled. He was holding the priceless orb in his hand. How could she only see the wooden chopsticks? However, Mingming didn't give him a chance to explain. She turned and ran off in a flash. My God, the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb, a treasure several hundred years old, and she just gave it to you like that. I think this girl is either stupid or likes you to the point of obsession. Chingyin took a deep breath and concluded gravely, how could anyone be that stupid? That's just not human. So, she definitely likes you. Pei Ji didn't respond. Lowering his eyes to the Yin Mountain Ghost Orb in his hand, he recalled that ever since he could remember, he had lived under his mother's beatings and indifference. The children in the neighborhood all knew he was the son of a demonic cultivator. Due to their fear of demonic influence, no one wanted to be friends with him. On the contrary, they often gathered together to corner and beat him. This was the first time anyone had willingly given him a gift, let alone something so precious. Chingyin's chattering continued beside his ear. This girl is so great, beautiful, kind-hearted, and always finding ways to help you. If I were you, I would have already fallen at this fairy's feet. Come on, let's go. Pei Ji, where are you going? The fair-skinned youth put the orb away, his eyes still filled with an impenetrable shadow. After resting in the small courtyard for a few days, Mingming received another system task notification, star plucking. Bored after the previous incident, she planned to visit the Qingshu abode for some fresh air. Unexpectedly, she encountered Elder Wenhemian of Xuanshu sect, whose cultivation had regressed. Follow the predetermined plot and humiliate Wenhemian. Finally his part, Chengyin chirped. Wenhemian in the Qingshu abode was born with a sword heart, a young genius. He was the youngest elder in the history of the Xuanshu sword sect. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, during the Immortal Demon War, although he and several other experts killed the Demon Lord, he himself suffered severe injuries. His spiritual bones were damaged, his spiritual sea shattered, and his cultivation regressed. Since then, he had been living in seclusion in the Qingshu abode. The disciples all knew a senior lived there and tactfully avoided the area. The arrogant young miss, in a bad mood after being injured at the star-plucking pavilion, and with the boldness of ignorance, actually barged right in. The Qingshu abode was a place for immortals to cultivate and recuperate. Distant peaks were hidden among the flowing clouds. Passing through a narrow, winding path, she arrived at a lush green valley. Mingming heard the sound of a qin. She had studied music theory and was quite talented in music. She recognized the qin music as ancient and long, elegant and refined, yet tinged with a faint sorrow, like an unresolved melancholy. This was her first encounter with Heroine in the book. Ningning wanted to cry, but had no tears. She had truly shot herself in the foot. Hadn't it been said that although Elder One was cold and aloof, his heart was pure and clear? Seeing him today, how could he have become this kind of person who wouldn't even help someone in need? When Heroine, frustrated and disheartened, played the qin in the valley, the original host had already taken a liking to him. But not only did she speak disrespectfully, she even smashed the guqin with a large rock. There was no limit to her self-destructive behavior. Everyone she provoked would later become a formidable figure. With this kind of luck, she could buy a villa by the sea by betting against the lottery. Mingming picked up a large rock with a blank expression and walked towards the direction of the qin music. She walked slowly. Suddenly, without warning, she collapsed. Mingming tried to move her right leg, but it wouldn't budge. Her left leg was the same. Her whole body felt limp. She froze in place, unable to move. Wait. What's going on? Ningning frantically poked the system in her mind. After a long silence, the system's voice finally appeared, sounding reluctant that you've been poisoned by the bewitching flower. This flower grows in the lower reaches of the Qingshu abode. Smelling its fragrance causes paralysis. It will wear off on its own after the time it takes to burn an incense stick. You're telling me I have to stand here for the time it takes to burn an incense stick? When Heroine won't just leave. Why didn't the original host encounter this? Is my luck worse than hers? She was still holding the rock, but she no longer had the strength to hold it. The rock fell, hitting the top of her foot. Her 5 toes curled up and trembled. A gentle breeze blew, and the clouds parted. When Heroine looked up and saw a graceful figure in the distance. This melody concealed endless sorrow, yet it wasn't readily apparent. Those who heard it all remarked on its leisurely and carefree nature, its refreshing clarity. Only he, upon hearing it, shed tears. Such a confidant was truly rare. Seeing him, she disregarded everything else. Struggling, she used all her strength to move her lips. She mouthed a few distorted words. Save me. Quickly, I beg you. Lose that old dream. Quickly escape. When Heroine quietly watched her, striving to decipher her lip movements. What an understanding and well-mannered young disciple. Even her words were so gentle and soft. He must have known his plight and offered this as comfort. Finally, someone was willing to visit him, a forgotten cripple abandoned by the world. Finally, someone understood his music. A soulmate was hard to come by, a melody hard to break. The young man, lost in thought for a long time, seemed to be thanking the unknown young woman. Sparing no melody, he continued to play, his hand resting on the instrument. He saw the girl crying continuously, likely reminded of some sorrowful past event, her emotions stirred by the scene. So, Mingming's toes remained swollen, the curses she directed at him forming a rap in her mind. She cursed along with the rhythm of the zither, bang, bang, bang. Wasn't this elder, when supposed to be cold and aloof, yet with a heart as clear as a mirror? Wasn't he supposed to be the true embodiment of enduring kindness? Seeing him today, his supposed righteous aura, how could he have become this kind of person who wouldn't even help someone in need? Bad guy, cheapskate. Later, the pain became numb. Mingming stood there expressionless, letting the cold wind slap her face. After an unknown amount of time, the numbness that had spread throughout her body finally began to recede. She gritted her teeth and tried to move. The congealed blood in her right leg suddenly surged, like a powerful torrent rushing in all directions. A tingling electric current spread from the sole of her foot to her knee. Her strength hadn't fully returned, and her footing was unsteady. She immediately fell to the ground. The zither music abruptly stopped. When Heroine frowned silently, it seemed she was overcome with grief, her heart and mind overwhelmed. She had cried herself unconscious. What kind of experience could make such an understanding girl so sorrowful? Although he disliked strangers, touched by her heartfelt melody, he approached Mingming without much thought. He bent down and reached out to her. Mingming, her reflection shimmering in the lush green grass. lifted her head from the grassland. The first thing she saw was a hand very close to her. Putting on a good act now, Mingming thought, full of indignant pride, that I can get up myself. When Hemian understood, it seemed this young disciple was shy and introverted, embarrassed to have much contact with him, a stranger. She refused with a blush and a soft voice. He had been too abrupt, having been out of touch with others for so long. The bewitching flower's toxins likely still lingered in her system. Ningning, to maintain her image as a vicious villainess, struggled to get up from the ground. However, before she could steady herself, the moment her legs straightened, that familiar electric current shot through her feet again, and she fell to the side once more. Suddenly, a large, bony hand grasped her arm, preventing her from falling forward. Fellow Taoist, your stance is unsteady. It seems you've been overwhelmed by strong emotions, injuring the meridians in your limbs. He paused, coughing lightly. A faint, sickly pink blush rose on his pale cheeks. You mustn't move carelessly, otherwise your meridians could shatter and your limbs could be severely injured. Overwhelmed by strong emotions? Shattered meridians? Mingming was stunned, almost believing she'd been struck by incredibly bad luck. The vicious junior sister, to save the gloomy and introverted Wenhemian, decided to use a communication talisman. Like letters in modern society, they could be accurately delivered to the recipient, but if the sender didn't sign their name, their identity would remain unknown. Could a cultivator really collapse into that state just from smelling a bewitching flower and standing still? Mingming was half believing, half doubting. With a pounding heart, she cautiously wiggled her toes. Her icy temperature gradually warmed, and the uncomfortable electric current, along with the influx of spiritual energy, finally dissipated completely. Damn, it was really just numbness. Shattered meridians? Overwhelmed by strong emotions? Standing still for so long? Damn it, he almost fooled her with this con. Crippled? As expected of the Jiangxin sect leader. Convinced he was toying with her, Mingming, playing the part of the vicious villainess, retorted sarcastically, such unparalleled eyesight. When Hemian paused, then a faint blush crept up his ears. One, a mere cripple, is unworthy of such praise. Ningning, her face full of confusion, thought, Wenhemian, what are you doing? He's clearly mocking you. Can't you tell? Get angry. The peerless elder Wenhemian lowered his eyes slightly, then spoke with a hesitant coldness. I saw Junior shed tears, but I don't know the reason. Although my abilities are meager, perhaps I can be of assistance. Mingming mentally added a question mark. This guy must have won an Oscar in his past life. He was playing the Qin so cheerfully when he saw her crying. Now he has the audacity to pretend to be a good person and ask why she's crying. Doesn't he already know? Wait, Wenhemian might actually not know why she was crying. Mist was rising and filling the valley. The two of them were also separated by some distance. The rock was covered by weeds, making it difficult for others to discover. Back then, she could only speak using lip movements. Unfortunately, those lip movements were far from standard because of her distress. It was only natural that he couldn't understand. Furthermore, he just mentioned being moved to tears. The yearning and sorrowful emotions within Wenhemian's Qin music were deeply hidden. At first glance, others would only feel a leisurely and carefree melody. He couldn't possibly think that I was moved to tears after understanding the deeper meaning of the music. Could he? This won't do. Understanding the meaning of the song and crying with empathy is definitely not something a vicious female supporting character should do. I should have hardened my heart and broken free from Wenhemian's hand. It's not because of your song that I'm upset. I hate this kind of miserable music the most, and I don't want to hear it again. She gritted her teeth as she spoke, kicking the discarded rock aside with disgust, wanting to smash it against a bone like the original villain had. I don't like you, and you're not allowed to play again. Unaccustomed to speaking harshly to others, her face burned as if on fire. She almost used all her courage to finally blurt out the original villain's words in one breath. The dignified sword immortal, willingly confined to this place, reduced to a useless cripple. I see that for the rest of your life, you'll only have this broken Qin for company. She didn't like this mournful music and didn't want to hear him play it again. Ever since his cultivation was sealed, all the elders in the sect had come to visit him. They all hesitated, comforting him not to mind and to focus on cultivating. Only this young girl bluntly said not to play such sad music anymore. Otherwise, he would only be trapped here, forever accompanied by sorrowful melodies. He really was foolish. Even if if he smashed the chain, he wouldn't be able to overcome his inner demons and move on. When Heroine, not good at communicating, didn't know how to comfort the girl in front of him, whose eyes were red because of him. He was just about to speak when he heard Mingming's stiff voice, "I'm leaving." She didn't forget to add, "I hate you. I also hate your music. I was crying because I stubbed my toe on a rock." She came suddenly and left just as quickly. The girl's figure was light, disappearing in the blink of an eye, leaving behind a gentle breeze. The white-clad young man stood alone in front of the broken chain, a wry smile faintly crossing his face. Asterisk stubbed her toe on a rock. Only she could come up with such a clumsy excuse. Asterisk. Asterisk, Ningning can't sleep. Ningning is restless. Asterisk, although Ningning knew she was a vicious female supporting character and had diligently carried out her tasks before, those times were all muddled, and she hadn't caused any real harm to others. But this time was different. She actually said such harsh words to a depressed, almost dying, pitiful person. Even the original villain had said that after being mocked, when Heroine became even more withdrawn, gloomy, and melancholic, he had even gently asked her why she was crying for no reason, and if she needed help. He was just a naive sweetheart who couldn't even understand sarcasm, and she really liked the music he played. Yet, she said such cruel things. It's terrible. Ningning, who had never quarreled with anyone in her life, felt guilty. After much thought, she decided to be a good Samaritan, an anonymous, cultivation world version of a helpful stranger. When Heroine lived alone in Qingshu and wasn't close to the other elders. Since the valley was considered half a forbidden area, no disciple would dare to approach him. He had been alone for so long, and had to endure rumors like cripple and fallen genius. So, she decided to impersonate an unknown disciple and secretly write a letter to encourage him. Within the Xuanxu sword sect, communication talismans were used for all information exchange. Like letters in modern society, while they could be accurately delivered to the recipient, if the sender didn't sign their name, their identity would remain unknown. This way, she could seamlessly impersonate an unknown little fan and comfort when Heroine during this difficult time. The vicious junior sister was considered to have sent a love letter just for giving an injury, Ghost Pearl. This girl must like you. She even gave you such a precious pearl. The communication talisman seemed to have wings. Empowered by spiritual energy, it instantly arrived in front of Heroine's door. The young man, in seclusion, hadn't received a message for a long time. Full of doubt, he opened it, and after seeing the contents, his cold, bloodshot eyes softened slightly. Written on it in childish scrawl were the words, "Elder Jiangxin, hello. I'm a newly admitted disciple, and I've always admired you. If you can see this letter, I'll be so happy. I heard that the elder was injured in the great battle and is currently in secluded cultivation. I wonder how you are doing. I really look forward to meeting you someday. For this goal, I will keep working hard." The young man's pale knuckles gripped the paper. Somehow, a low chuckle escaped his throat. Those with high cultivation can sense the unique spiritual energy of each person through these communication talismans. That girl would never guess that even with his diminished cultivation, he could still discern some things. The spiritual energy on the communication talisman was gentle and soft, yet carried a hint of familiarity. Even though she wrote in a veiled manner, when Heroine could still recognize the sender. She put on a good act. When Heroine usually avoided personal attachments, but this time, for some unknown reason, he picked up a pen and leaned over, using the communication talisman she sent to write a reply. As long as the same talisman is used, the letter will automatically travel to the sender's residence. I am flattered by your admiration. Today, a disciple trespassed into Qingshu Valley. White dress, long dark hair, and pearl earrings. Judging by her sword chi, she should be at the Golden Core 7th stage. I wonder if you happen to know her name. The second letter quickly arrived at Qingshu abode. It was still written in the same flamboyant script. It's senior sister Ningning, under Elder Tian Xinzi. She's really fierce. We're all super afraid of her. If she did anything to upset you today, I apologize on her behalf. Don't mind her, she's always had a bad temper. This girl, she's actually indirectly apologizing to him. But he hadn't done anything wrong. So her name is Ningning. A smile touched Heroine's lips for the first time in a long while. Looking down at the writing on the paper, he silently repeated the name. As evening approached, the young man in black stumbled back to his room, too exhausted to walk any further. The rebelliousness and rage dormant in his blood tore at his nerves, urging him to unleash carnage. Peiji leaned against the wooden door, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. He hadn't fallen to the point of succumbing to it. He didn't want to become a monster who only knew how to kill. The wound from the sword Shi was still bleeding. He pressed his hand against it, almost masochistically. Then came a knock on the door, accompanied by a familiar voice. "Little junior brother, are you in there?" There were no lights lit in the room. In the dark night, only a vague silhouette of a standing figure could be seen through the window paper in the moonlight. Hearing no response, she hesitated for a moment before knocking again. "Master asked me to bring you some medicine." Peiji tilted his head back, finally releasing his lower lip from between his teeth. It took almost all his strength to force out a hoarse, "Leave it at the door." Ningning outside the door seemed to pause. She hesitantly replied, "Can't you open the door? There's something I have to give you personally." His mind in turmoil, he rasped what? This time, it was Ningming's turn to hesitate. She paused, too embarrassed to name the item. Her voice dropped, slightly discouraged. "It's nothing important. I'll just leave it at the door with the medicine." Peiji didn't reply, his fingers pressing harder against the door. There was no sound from outside for a while. He assumed the girl had left. Then, unexpectedly, he heard her soft voice again. "Are you wearing the Een Mountain Ghost Pearl I gave you?" She had seen him during the assistance and knew he sometimes experienced demonic chi leakage. Peiji wasn't so stingy that he wouldn't even open the door for her. He must have refused her treatment on the training grounds and returned to his room for this very reason. Although the Een Mountain Ghost Pearl couldn't completely cure his condition, it could at least alleviate some of the pain. It would be a waste if he kept the treasure tucked away in a drawer. She spoke in one breath, only realizing afterward that something seemed amiss. Peiji didn't know the Een Mountain Ghost Pearl could suppress demonic chi. From his perspective, she had given him the pearl and was persistently reminding him to wear it, almost as if it were a token of affection. Ningning, her ears flushing red, hurriedly explained, "I heard the Een Mountain Ghost Pearl can cure illnesses. If little junior brother is accidentally poisoned while training outside, it can help him escape danger. Addicts would never be born amidst surging demonic energy. Yet he chose this life. Young lady, he wants you to remember the engagement letter and Peiji."